Okay, folks, this is an update to my HSV Hive test system and historical data points. I've been having problems updating because I keep getting some sort of noise on my system, so let's hope it doesn't happen this time. Okay, HSV2 is what we're going to start out with. HSV2 outbreak, or an epidemic of HSV2, started in 1974 in the United States and ended in 1994. Usually, AIDS takes about 7 or so years to go from infection to actual AIDS. So if you figure that 7 years and you add it to 1974, that's 1981. Guess what year the first AIDS patient was noted in the United States of America? 1981. By 1988, we started having significant casualties among people that were affected by the hive virus that causes AIDS. And, like I said, in 1994, the HSV epidemic was declared over. That's about 6 or so years after the major casualties were starting to be taken, which is kind of interesting. Then it kind of started to level off as a percentage of the population that had HIV. Then finally in 2008 and 2010, it started dropping. Both new infections started dropping and deaths started dropping from hive virus or AIDS. Now a little bit more history. HSV in Africa, based on the World Health Organization's studies on HSV in 2003 and 2012. In 2003, the number of people affected by HSV was 2/3 of the population, or roughly 55% of the men and 70% of the women. Whereas in 2012, that had dropped to 31% of the general population. Now, let's look at Swaziland. The most affected country in the world. It's also an African country. Looking at those 2003 figures for HSV and going to 2012, you would expect it to be a decline in infections, etc. What did we actually have in Swaziland? Starting in about 2010 till present, roughly 2016, I think was the latest information available. AIDS infections, new AIDS infections, or hive infections as they actually call them, had dropped 43% from 2010 to 2016 in Swaziland. We're expecting deaths to start dropping there too. The worst affected country in the world. And it dropped 43%. I got some information from another site. I'll have to cite it down below. I don't remember the name of the site. Anyway, it's washington.org, deppt.washington.org, something another. I don't remember the exact site off the top of my head. I'll have to include it in the notes at the bottom. But they said that there has been a decline in a number of countries in the amount of HSV2 caused growing sores. And that now 70% of growing sores are now caused by HSV1, which is generally a disease of the mouth. So when it comes to oral sex, you might want to watch out. Okay, now for my 10S rules that are followed the needs and the beliefs that I just imparted to you in the statistics. 1, the first rule is the pre-play 10S check. If you don't have growing sores, you have a low chance of catching AIDS from somebody. If you have these growing sores, you have a high chance of catching AIDS. This is based on a Washington University study in 2006 of HSV and HIV. Now, if we go to the 10S rule, the second rule, basically you try to avoid having sex with people who you check your partners for growing sores, hemorrhoids, and watch out for sharing needles. If you successfully do all that, then you have a chance of evading not only HIV, but HSV and hepatitis C. Now for the 10 rule. This is probably the more important rule of the rules. Basically, if you wake up the next morning and you find out that you had sex with somebody who's got growing sores, hemorrhoids, or you shared needles with them, then you should seriously consider going to the emergency room and getting PEP treatment. No matter what their history is supposedly is. I've heard of too many people being shafted by lovers who had HIV and didn't tell them. There's a number of them on YouTube. If you just want to flip through and read a few stories, there's some ridiculous stories in there, but geez, things like that shouldn't have happened. And then there is my PrEP rule. Now, in my PrEP rule, if the PEP rule is successful, if you get a successful treatment, then you need to watch out for outbreaks of growing sores. Watch out if you develop hemorrhoids, and if you're going to plan on sharing needles, then you need to start getting PrEP treatments. Just like PEP can, in 4 weeks, can basically give you HIV free if you didn't have HIV before you started taking it, keep you HIV free. This will keep you HIV free if you don't have it either, even if you come into contact with it. Well, that's it. Thomas Willis here. Have a good one.